All right, it's Kicking It with Jason. Got my friend Adam here. He's also host of Heroes for Sale. He does some of the best sports card content that I've seen. I learned a lot from him. I still learn a lot from him. I was listening to one of his episodes yesterday about Zion because I have a Zion card. So I was like, hey, let me see his feedback on this card. And he just dropped some good stuff. And yeah, man, you've been producing. You've been dropping some good knowledge. I know you're all over the place. You just got some content on Reddit now. I see that. You got a daily podcast, or almost a daily. It's almost daily, right? You're putting an episode almost up every day, right?
The podcast is daily. I think we're on episode 238, and I think other than like 3 days this year, since like the start of the year, there's been a daily podcast. So it's been kind of crazy.
That's inspirational for me, who has a podcast, and like I would love that work ethic. Real quick, let's spend some time on that. Like, because I know you just celebrated your first year of being on the podcast, man. What have you learned from like that consistency, doing your own thing, talking about something you're passionate about? Like, what's some things you learned about in that first year?
I would say just you have to talk about something that you like.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing. Like, because for me, I can find like a topic or like one single nugget of a thing and turn it into a 15-minute podcast. Like, I mean, I think it's easy because in a year I produced 230 episodes in a 365-day span. So like to talk about something that you don't like and be able to, because also, I mean, I think the other thing that happens is that you'll see is some people will do like interviews, and I started doing way more interviews, which I like. And that's another thing that I think is actually a lot. I want to try and do more. It's just the fact that I need to find the space, and I need to find, because like the timing of it. And I mean, I think the other thing is that you shouldn't worry about I think audio quality does matter. So I think investing like $150 in like a microphone you can plug into your phone or however you're recording, I think that's a big deal. But I also think that like, you don't like I just half the time I'm recording in my car. So like, I think that's another thing that like, you have to, first of all, you have to like what you're talking about. And second of all, you just need to like do it, and you need to get in the habit of doing it. I think those are probably the two things that, for the podcast at least, that I found over the last year of doing it.
Nice, man. Nice. I agree. Like what you're talking about in getting the habit. Like me, I love talking about fitness, kickboxing, sports cards. So I touch on all those things in my podcast. And, I think where people can get stuck is like they might get caught up on the quality at first and the quantity, but it's just instead of just starting. Like me, I just started. My first podcast was at Costco, at a random table, getting my tire started. I just started talking. That's how I got my first episode out. And then I knocked out episodes on the way to SoCal to get some cards graded on a 6-hour drive. I literally turned on my phone, turned on the video, and just started talking, man. It was so easy. I knocked out like, I think 9 episodes, just different topics, just chatting with
that's totally. I mean, like the first episode, I was literally just sitting in the car waiting. Like my fiance was like getting her nails done or something, and I was just like, and it's honestly for me, it was sort of spur of the moment, but it was sort of like I had done a podcast before, like in 2016. Like I had done like a podcast where I talked about like sports, and it was just like a random, because like Anchor, actually the app that I used, is it Anchor? Yeah, so it was Spreaker was a podcasting app that you had on your phone, but then Anchor came out. And actually when Anchor first came out, so I don't remember if it was Gary Vee had talked about this or if I had just been looking into like podcast stuff, but when Anchor first came out, you could only record for 5 minutes. Really? So like that's how I started. Like it was a bunch of shows, like, so Core Force, I started a bunch of random Instagrams and like companies sort of that like never really got off the ground. Like, so it was called Adam Speaks, because it was a joke that I thought was funny that I don't know if anyone even really thought was funny, but I thought it was so then the other one was like the Core Force Sports Boston, which was, I was talking about the sports in Boston. And then like I went on a little bit of hiatus doing the podcasting, and then one random day I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I just started the podcast. I started recording, and I just like talked about stuff that I had been posting on Instagram. And then throughout the rest of that 2019, I kind of was sporadically doing it. And then actually, I think it was spur of the moment again, like on the 3rd of January, I remember recording an episode, and then on the 4th I recorded an episode, and then on the 5th I recorded an episode. And I think it was like 4 or 5 days after recording them every day, I was like, I'm just going to do this every day and figure out a way to record an episode every single day. It's actually so sorry. And the original kind of concept came from, I don't know if you have heard Russ's interview on the Ask Gary Vee show, where he talked about
song every day.
Yeah, the song every day, and he talked about the song every week, and then Gary Vee was like, I bet you there's going to be somebody who does a song every day called the 365 Project. And in my head, I was like, I could probably do that with the podcast. And like, for me, I think it definitely wasn't, it's not easy to talk about stuff, but once you get in the habit of it, you get better at it. And that's just kind of what the main things that I've learned from doing the podcast for a year and doing it every day since basically the start of 2020.
Yeah. Nice, man. Yeah, that consistency, it just gets easier. You know, you just speak from the heart, speak from the truth, and you always got something to say. You know, like we're about to do just right now, just right now. But yeah, congratulations, man, on that podcast. You've been killing it, man, killing it.
Thanks. I mean, it's been super crazy the past July. I think we hit 3 days in July were actually the best days we've had of daily listens, which was like, you know, I don't know. I think as content creators, we're like obsessed with like refreshing the stats, and I can definitely fall victim to that. And like, you know, every couple minutes I would just refresh and go up like a couple listeners, and I was like, holy wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, man. Because the waves of people looking into sports cards right now is insane. Like, I just see it on TikTok, I see it on Instagram, so I'm sure everybody's trying to find information. You got new people coming on board, older people that used to be in the game, they're coming back, and everybody's looking for information. So like, you're a good resource. I'm always telling people about your stuff, and you know, along with other people. So yeah, those numbers going up, it's gonna follow for sure the wave that's happening right now.
Yeah, the content actually started sort of like the sports card stuff, because when I was getting into content, there really wasn't anybody. Like in March of 2019 is when I really started going like hardcore into sports card content. I had October, I think, of 2018, I had made some stuff, but I wasn't taking it super seriously. But like, there was nobody really making sports card content. So I was like, I'm going to try and fill this gap. Like, I think Slab Stocks was one of the first ones. And then the rest of the people that I saw that were making content were like breakers and like card shops who were doing breaks. And then, I mean, obviously it's phenomenal to see everybody coming in and making content, because it's like, I don't know, for me, it's like a ton of fun. So if people are having as much fun as I am making content, like, that's awesome. Like, and that's that's what I want, like, people coming in. So, I mean, the narrative that people are coming in is kind of half and half, with some people liking it, some people not liking it. But I think that's kind of what it's like when you have an industry that's been around for 60 years that kind of sat in waiting, like wasn't really popping off until like the beginning of this year, probably. And even from the beginning of this year till now, it's seen exponential growth.
Right. Yeah, what I love about your content is it's educational. You know, you can learn something and you can apply it to your strategies, your investing strategies, and like the storytelling and just what you see as a sports fan and just a card person in general is super educational. Versus like, we need all the different content. Like, you do have those people that have breakers. We just say, hey, look, the card I got, look at this card I got, look what I collected. That's cool too. But for me, like, I love to sit down, listen to that episode and be like, hey, I got this card because of this. This card is doing this. This card went from here to here. Here's what's happening in culture. Here's what this athlete is doing. Like, that content is like, it's priceless, man. And that's kind of like what I do with sports cards. Like, I like
totally.
When I talk about a sports card, I like to be like, hey, I like the brand of this player, the culture was happening, this moment in time was happening in sports. You know, like, all the storytelling behind it makes it such an educational piece. So that's what I really
totally. We've also seen kind of an interesting look into like the art side of sports cards, because and I may have talked about this last time I was on, but the art side of sports cards, we're seeing like with Project 2020, which is if your listeners don't know, it's basically Topps hired 20 different artists to recreate 20 of the most iconic baseball rookie cards of all time. So there is a set that's coming out. A new card comes out, or 2 new cards come out every 48 hours on Topps' website. And it's been one of the more popular kind of topics within the sports card industry. And then actually recently, Tyson Beck, who is a sports designer, just dropped an exclusive sports card with Jason Tatum. So we're seeing, and I was talking to Hype Cards about this on Instagram, and he was saying that a lot of sports cards is moving more towards art, which is like, I totally 100% agree, because like you look at big pieces of art, you look at like a Banksy, or you look at like a Basquiat, and like rich people own $25 million pieces of art. Like, I think we're going to, like, if the person who owns the PSA 10 1952 Mickey Mantle card, that's probably like a $15 to $25 million card right now. Now, there's only 3 of them in existence, and a PSA 9 sold in 2018 for $2.8 million, and that was 2 years ago. So I would think that there's probably going to be a PSA 9 that sells after this Trout card, because there's a 1-of-1 Trout Superfractor rookie that's on sale at Golden Auctions right now. I would say after that sale, I could see a PSA 9 or even a PSA 10 going up on sale. Like the PSA 10, I also do think could go through like some back channels where it's such an exclusive, expensive piece of history that we may not even hear about it. That's how exclusive and that's how expensive it's going to be. Like that could be also kind of crazy.
That is wild when you start thinking about the art, because people are attracted to that, design, look. And like people, like you have sneakerheads, sneakerheads, they buy shoes based on the look, and also because the flipping price, but also like somebody's looking at a card, or a sneakerhead's looking at a card, they're gonna say, I like that card because of how it looks, I like that design, I like how it flares, I like how the athlete looks in that card. Like that's interesting there, man. And if it's rare, like you said, Mickey Mantle, one of the greatest Yankees baseball players, legends, like gosh, there's the price on it. And yeah, man, so we can open up, because we're talking about the big money right there in art. We can just open up with that LeBron James card you wanted to talk about too, which sold, what was it, 1.8 million it was?
Yeah, for the it was a rookie patch autograph. I guess I don't know, because back then that's how they did it. They were numbered to, I don't know if they were numbered to the player's number, but it was numbered to 23, and I forget exactly which number. But apparently I was listening to a different podcast, the Mojo Breaks podcast, and the seller was talking about, the person who sold it was talking about when they bought it. I think they bought it like in 2016 for $40,000.
What?
And then they turned it into $1.8 million, which is, it's insane. And I mean, but it's also like if you look at the percentage, like that's sort of what we've seen across the board. Like if you were buying any type of soccer cards in 2017, like those prices now, like even last year, 2018, like those prices compared to where they are now, the percentage is almost the same. And it's crazy that you can say $40,000 to 1.8 million. But like that's sort of what the industry has done over the past 3 years, which, I think a lot of people say that we're in a bubble, or that it's going to collapse soon. And I don't necessarily think that it's going to collapse, but I just don't think we'll ever go back to seeing, like, I don't think we'll ever see like Luka's be $55 ever again. Like last summer, you could have been buying Luka for $55. I don't think we'll ever see that again. We could see maybe vintage stuff slow down a little bit more, but and maybe even some modern stuff slow down. But like for a card to sell for $1.8 million, like I think we almost, it being in the industry and being in the sports card industry, we almost take for granted, like that's insane. Like, and being in the industry, maybe, or being like for you, like you bought sports cards and you're doing research, like we see that headline and we're like, yep, that makes sense. But like to someone who is maybe a bettor or a fantasy sports player, or doesn't do any type and just like sports, for them to see that, like that's like when we see the Patrick Mahomes contract and it's $530 million over 12 years. Like that's insane, but it's like that. And that's what people, I think, outside of sports cards think about, like a $1.8 million sports card selling.
Yeah. And like, how do you think that sets the tone for the industry for something like that to happen with LeBron James still playing in the league? So, like it's, how do you think that sets the tone?
I mean, I think that what you just said, it sets the tone. Like it's going to bring people that have wealth, like not just, they don't have money from buying and selling sports cards. They have $1 million companies that they own, that they have, or they have $1 billion company and that they have maybe a net worth of a couple hundred million, or like even a few million. They're going to look at a Luka card that's $2,000. And for them, $2,000, like that's nothing. Like they go out to dinners that are $2,000. So like they're looking at it, and it's the same for me. Like I was looking at it and I was saying, last summer when I was buying these cards, like I was saying, I go out to dinner and it costs me like $60, $70. I can just buy this card, and whether it goes up or it goes down, it's still going to be it's still going to have value. But like for someone who's paying $2,000, like I think we're going to see people with significant wealth coming in to the industry and paying 20-30% over what the market value is, just so they can get the card, because they may not even necessarily understand that. Like, let's just say Luka, for example. Luka's selling for $2,000, but if they want a Luka card and they saw somebody post about it, or they saw something on TV, like for example, like the host of the NBA show, on the halftime show on TNT, I think the other night, he had some Lukas like sitting on the table on TV.
Swear.
So, and I forget his name. He's from Bleacher Report. His name is Adam. I forget his last name, but he, like, if you go to Card Talk, they posted about it. But like somebody who has wealth will look at that and say, that's cool, I want that. And they don't care that they'll go to eBay, and if none of the cards are available for $2,000, but they're available for $2,500, they'll just pay $2,500 because they have that extra. They don't care, or they don't even know. That's the other thing.
It's like buying Jordans, right? Like
exactly right. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, some Jordans are just so rare, but they're like, Drake, if he's like, I want those shoes, he's gonna find
exactly.
a way. So.
Yeah, if like an off-white Virgil Abloh Nike collab or something drops, and somebody who has millions of dollars, and they may even have millions of dollars of expendable income, it may not, like, they're gonna look at that and say, I want that. Like they might look at like, and I don't even think I think Luka's on the low end for them. Like I think for them, they're gonna look at like a Zion NT RPA, and that's $100,000. And if it's selling for 80, but it's 100, they'll pay the 100 because they don't care. Like they have the extra 20 grand to spend. Like it doesn't matter for them.
Exactly. And one of the guys, the sports car shop, I stopped by, Burbank Sports Car Shop. He does some great content. He was like, he did this video about the crystal ball of what he sees in sports cards. He's been in it for a long time. And he was just like, I don't see this slowing down anytime soon. I don't see a collapse happening. There's so many young people coming in. He's like, eventually you're going to have people like Wall Street people who are like, I need to put a portfolio together of sports cards because
exactly
of what's happening. Like things are growing so good. Like literally one of my cards, the Devin Booker card, grew 787%. Like that's a real number,
exactly
80% from November.
I mean, I think,
now. Like,
also for like rich people, they look at it maybe, and I don't know if you know who, what's his name? Andrew. He's a comedian. He's from New York. Andrew Schultz. Yeah, Andrew Schultz.
He's funny, dude.
He has a video actually recently where he was talking about, he was like, is popular art just money laundering? And I watched the video, and it was so funny because like he was talking about how like rich people will buy a painting for $25 million. And that $25 million isn't taxed by the government. They don't have to worry about like paying taxes on it. And
right.
and if it just goes up in value, it goes up and they sell it. Like, but it's always, it's not, they don't have to worry about it. So like, I think that's another thing that people could look at. They'll look at like an NT RPA of Zion for $100,000. They'll look at that and they'll say, I'll just put $100,000 towards that. And then I have the actual asset. And it's not like the stock market where your stock market portfolio is getting taxed by the government. Granted, I think there could be some regulations coming soon. And I have literally no type of insider info, but it just seems like there's a lot of stuff that people know. Like there's also like a thing with the FBI and one of the large companies that like sells cards that's going on. So like, I think that there could be regulations like maybe 5-ish years, 10 years from now, but right now it's the wild, wild west. Like nobody is really kind of looking at it and saying, you can do whatever you want, basically. Like that's kind of, I think, an issue where, like, once we see, like you said, New York people coming in and saying, well, I need to start putting together a portfolio, there may be some sort of regulation that has to come down from that. But, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, me either, man. It's just wild of what's happening. And, all the big news, LeBron cards, Mike Trout cards selling, what's happening with Luka cards. It's wild, man. So, right now is the NBA bubble. Playoffs are getting ready to start soon. And we just seen cards just taking off. What's been your take, man? Like what's been something you've seen? I know Devin Booker's been hot. I got a lot to say about that for sure, but what have you seen?
Yeah. I mean, it's becoming almost a nightly thing where somebody has a good game that maybe was like a $5 card and it's becoming a $40 card like overnight. Like you see like Bol Bol, or you see like TJ Warren, or you see like Devin Booker, or you see like a Damian Lillard. Like all these players just like they're going off. Like the TJ Warren card, especially like that, like his silver prism from 2013 or 2014, I forget exactly which year, went from like, and actually same with Bol Bol. They both went from like $5, 5 to 10 to like 40 overnight. And I think that's what you're going to start seeing. I think you'll start to see that more with cards. And I think it could happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in baseball, but I think in basketball for sure, some of those like 2012 to 2016 rookies, like those players' cards, those prism cards are sort of rare. Like they're not rare in the sense that like there aren't a lot of them, but like compared to 2018, 2017, 2019, I know I just went out of order, but all the cards, like those print runs are ridiculously high. So like I think we'll see on a daily basis, like if you see an individual player, it's going to be very similar to like daily fantasy, where people are going to look at it and they'll say, like I actually did an experiment kind of. I looked at some daily fantasy stats from that day, and I said I picked out 3 players and I picked out their rookie card, and two of the 3 ended up selling and one of them didn't. But I think if once people get so good like they do with daily fantasy, like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to make a lot of money from buying and selling cards in a day because of platforms like StarStock or platforms like MySlabs or ComC. Like, I think those types of platforms are those are also the types of platforms that I think we're going to see like big investors like of tech companies come in, and they're going to invest because first of all, they have inventory, like especially like a StarStock or ComC, like they have a huge amount of inventory, and it's almost like day trading for cards, because like at any time you could probably find a rookie card and there's probably 3 or 4 that are all worth the same amount. And if you buy them for 30 cents, and that player goes on and has like a triple double, those could instantly jump up to $5 in a matter of hours. And I think we're going to start seeing that, like especially with the bubble and what we've seen with players in the bubble.
Yeah, it definitely within my 1 year anniversary of buying my first card is coming up September 18th. My Trae Young cards, and so over a year I would say I've been looking at cards for sure, researching, and like my eyes for trends have just been better. I'm not a pro or nothing. Like I'm still a rookie, but like you said, like I'm so comfortable with telling people, like, watch what happens with this card. Watch what happens with this card. Watch this game and watch what happens. MPJ was one of those from Denver. I was telling my friend, I was like, look, dude, take $25. I was like, MPJ is about he's about to come back, do his first game. And he had a lot of hype back before the season got canceled for a little bit. I said, watch, he's gonna play. If he goes off, that card's gonna shoot up. So his raw card went from like 25 to 100.
Exactly.
And then like
his
prism card went from I think hundreds to like 500 something now. So I was like, man, there you have it. So crazy stuff. And like there's players who I think their cards will fizzle off after the playoffs. You talk about that a lot, the hype. Like, be careful, guys, buying the hype, because there's people that are buying players right now where they're paying way too much, I feel. But there's also players where I don't see slowing down. Luka's one of them. Like, I see Luka going to 3,000, and it's going to stay there. that's just gonna be it. Wherever Luka goes to, I feel like it's gonna keep riding. It's gonna be so sustainable. And you got Bol. Like, I don't feel like that's sustainable. I think that's just pure just hype, right? So it's gonna go up. People are excited. You know, there's a player that has potential, and then it's gonna kind of fizzle off. That's what I see. What about you?
Yeah, I think Bol was like the perfect storm of like people excited that the NBA was back.
Yeah.
He was actually a player that like I saw a lot of people talking about, like not in the sense that, like he should have been an early first round pick, but he got hurt at the end of his college career and he kind of dropped into the second round. So like,
right.
it's not like he wasn't good. He kind of fell out of the first round because he got hurt. It's not similar. It's interesting that Denver drafts those types of players. Like they take the chance on like the injured player. Like Michael Porter Jr. didn't play his whole freshman year of college because he got hurt. And then he was kept out for 2 years because he had to get back surgery. Right. So, like, granted, if he continues to play well, he was the number one. He was Zion before Zion, I think, is a perfect example for Michael Porter Jr. Yeah. Before he got hurt, Michael Porter Jr.'s hype was the same as Zion's.
Yeah.
Because I was following him. I forget exactly. He played somewhere in Missouri, and because he was one of the first players that really I got introduced to through like the highlight films, like through like House of Highlights and Overtime, like those companies that focus on like top high school talent. If you go back to 2017 or I guess it would have been 2016 when he was a senior in high school, he was the one that was he was the one that was all over all those accounts. And so like, then he got hurt in college and he was hurt the whole season. Like he got hurt at the beginning, played in the NCAA tournament, but they got knocked out. And then he got drafted, he hurt his back, and then he was out. So like Michael Porter Jr. is very interesting. I mean, he's definitely risky, like from an injury standpoint. Like and then a player like Bol also kind of had that injury history, kind of comes in and is like, he's still good. Like he's just injury prone. And that was kind of the reason why he wasn't one of those top rookies. And then that's when you see like the perfect storm, like I said, and then he has that crazy game in the scrimmage where he goes off and he scores 16 points, 10 rebounds, whatever it was. And and then you see his prices kind of skyrocket.
Yeah. Crazy, man. What's another card you see take off? What's something else?
So in NBA?
Yeah. In the NBA.
In the NBA, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Celtics do, I think, because in the next few years, probably, like I'm from Boston, so like I'm a Celtics fan, and Tatum and Brown, I think, are two of probably the most interesting players in the NBA to me, because like they have a very similar feeling to like Shaq and Penny, like when they were this dynamic duo that was drafted 2 years in a row that kind of brought a franchise back from, like, the Celtics and Orlando are much different, but like the Celtics were terrible when they drafted Brown and Tatum. So like it'll be interesting. And Brown just signed an extension. So I think Brown is actually just as interesting as Tatum. But I think Tatum is probably going to be the star of that team. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, if they bring somebody else in or if they kind of stay pat, because they have like Hayward. Honestly, if Hayward hadn't gotten hurt, they would be a completely different team. Like they would probably be the Bucks. They'd probably be they'd be the best team in the league probably, because they have Kemba. They've got Hayward, who signed that max deal. So like for me, I think the most interesting players to me are going to be Brown and Tatum, just because like the market that they have, like being from Boston and seeing the fans, seeing how galvanizing and when a team is good, it is like, it's like like the aura, not like aura, but like the feeling around Boston when a team is like on a championship run is like the craziest. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Like,
they're good,
and especially with the Celtics, because they had that 2008 run with the big three. And then from there, this is the crazy thing about the Celtics, is that this is the team that they were trying to build. So like, it's going to be interesting to see if it pans out, because like they traded KG and Paul Pierce to the Brooklyn Nets for like all those picks. And then what ended up happening is these are the picks. So like, these are the players that have to pan out for this team to be good. And then signing Hayward, it was because they got Brad Stevens, so the coach he just signed an extension the other day.
Good coach.
I mean, every year he's been the coach, they've had either a better record or like in the past 3 years, I think it was very similar. But I don't know. I just think the team has so much potential, and this is the team that they were trying to build. So like, I think if it pans out, that's going to be phenomenal. I don't see how it doesn't pan out in at least 1 or 2 championships. So Brown and Tatum are kind of the guys that maybe as a homer pick there, but those are the kind of guys that I'm interested in to see how they do. Like if they ever become like a Luka level type of pricing too.
Right. And not to mention, like these guys did well that year. Kyrie, you guys had Kyrie. You kind of forget Kyrie was on the Celtics.
I wish I could forget Kyrie was on the Celtics.
Man, and it's just like these guys did their thing, man. And you kind of wonder, like, if Kyrie would have been healthy that year, would they have gotten that same shine out the gates?
Or like Hayward, Hayward doesn't break his leg 5 minutes into the season. Like that was the craziest sports moment I think I can remember as watching live on TV, other than like Kevin Ware during the NCAA tournament that one time where he did the same thing basically, like on the sidelines, just like messed up his leg. And it was terrible. And, Hayward, I think, is finally getting back to a point where he I don't think he's as good as he was when they started the contract, but he's as good as I think he can get. I think that's kind of how I would put it.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, the trauma. There's some kind of trauma you have to get over from that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, thinking that your career could be potentially over in like a split second has got to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, that is crazy. Yeah, one of the players, man, I really like, who I if I just had the money, I would have bought 50 of his cards, is Devin Booker. And that guy, like, I've always liked his game. He learned from Kobe. He has a lot of similarities of just how offensively of a shark he is, man. He's just a beast. And I don't know if they'll get into the playoffs, but that's a guy who I feel is going to be solid for the next few years. I think he's just been lost in Phoenix. Just, he hasn't been getting the kind of recognition. And then you have, in the West, there's so many good guards, Westbrook, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, it's just, like I can't even keep with Lillard. You got Harden. Like there's so many good guards over there. But
the league right now is probably the best I think we've seen it in since the 80s, probably since Magic and Bird were in the league. I think this is probably the best we've seen in the league. Like because if you look back at the 90 teams in the 90s, they were not very good. But now I think we're really seeing, and I think we're also seeing kind of a changing of the guard with like the Tatums and the John Morant is another great player, or the like Donovan Mitchells. Like we're seeing, and Luka, another perfect example, like younger players step up and becoming like the top 10 to 15 players in the league. Kind of we're seeing that I think a little bit more now too.
Yeah, man, I agree. The way the game has evolved, it's fast, it's flashy. A lot of threes. People are more creative with their footwork, creative with their offensive shots. Like it's crazy how the game has changed, and I like it. I'm all for
totally.
It.
I think the Warriors. The interesting thing that I don't think the Warriors get enough credit for is they didn't only change the game in terms of how it's played. They changed the game in terms of like contract strategy. Like they drafted Steph, they drafted Draymond, they drafted Klay Thompson, and before they signed, I think, Klay Thompson to like a max deal, they traded for a Kevin Durant. They brought in a top 5 player to play with other top 5 players in the league. And the Warriors owners basically said, like, because the thing with the cap in the NBA is you can sign players that are on your roster to whatever contract you want. There is a cap, but when you go over the cap, you then have to pay the NBA, like the luxury tax is what it's called. You have to pay the NBA 1.5 times how much you're over the cap. So they said, we'll pay that extra money because we're going to win a championship, and that extra championship revenue is going to be worth. See, they ran it. It blows my mind that they ran it so perfectly, and honestly, it's how I think a team is going to I think a team is going to trade for Devin Booker somehow.
So
The same way that a team traded for Kevin Durant. Like,
yeah,
I think realistically, if the Warriors could have traded for Devin Booker instead of Anthony Wiggins, I think that would have been a better deal. Like but at the same time, like Booker and D'Angelo Russell are good friends, so like I don't know how that would have worked. But I think that if a team can trade for Booker, they're going to figure out a way to do it, because I just don't know how they're going to be able to compete. And I think he's like the perfect piece that they can add. The only problem is that he did sign like a max deal, so they're going to have to figure out the money aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I think the Warriors did it perfectly, where they had 3 players that were kind of in the middle of their rookie deals and they had just signed extensions. So like that was kind of interesting to me. And that was, I think, what some team could do with Booker is what the Warriors essentially did with KD.
Yeah, man. Devin Booker is a very interesting player. What can happen? I totally feel he's gonna ask for a trade. I just can't see him staying there. And I just feel like if he goes to Dallas, oh my gosh.
Oh
Dallas,
my God, that's ridiculous.
Like I can see that.
That would be
happen.
insane.
Yeah, I can see that happen with Dallas. I can see him going to the Nets. That's gonna be insane.
Yeah.
Even the Rockets, man. If he ends up on the Rockets, gosh,
yeah.
There's a lot of talk about Giannis. What's Giannis gonna do? And and even over here,
I mean, he's another player. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're like Warrior fans and everybody over here. We're just like, is he gonna be over here? But I don't know. I don't know any pieces we have to trade him, and I don't see us ever trading like Clay. That's like the only reasonable thing. Draymond's not even a close trade. That doesn't even make sense.
After next season, there's like an insane list of free agents. Giannis is on that list, and like it's. I think the league is going to be completely different in 2 years from now, because I think either Giannis is going to stay with the Bucks, or the NBA is going to be completely turned on his head and he's going to go somewhere, and then that's going to be the next team that goes on to be the next Warriors, essentially.
Yeah, dude. After next season will be oh man, that's crazy to even think about. Like if Giannis stays with the Bucks another year. And I just keep thinking somebody has to team up with Luka. Kristaps doing good, but man, could you imagine Luka and Giannis? Oh my gosh!
Oh man, God, that's ridiculous.
That's just crazy right there. Luka, Giannis.
It is crazy.
I don't know, that. But and the thing is, it can
God.
happen. We already seen this happen. It's not like that can't happen. No, it can. Teams can make things happen to where they can get the right pieces. You got Anthony Davis in LA.
Yeah.
You had Kevin Durant come to Golden State. It can happen. So it's wild, man.
You can figure out a way to do it. Yeah, I mean, totally.
Yeah. So,
I think also.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say with the Suns, I also think that there's a potential that they could trade for somebody. Like they could try and get like a Giannis or somebody to come play with Booker, because Ayton is like a big man that they just drafted 2 years ago in 2018 that is sort of kind of panning out to be like kind of good, which last year he wasn't as good. Also they had a player that they drafted from Slovakia, I think his name was Dragan Bender. And if he had panned out, I think they would be in this top 2 or 3 Western conversation, but he didn't. And they did add some other players, like they added Ricky Rubio, they added Kelly Oubre, they just drafted Cam Johnson. So like they're decent enough, but the problem with the NBA is that if you don't have like a 3 to 4 superstar level players on your team, which is kind of what we've seen, which is almost every team has them that's good, you're not really going that far.
Yeah, you can't compete, man. It's too much talent. Way too much talent. So, they get a lot of slack for trading TJ Warren, but I don't know if TJ Warren was really balling like that though, right? Like how he is now.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about TJ Warren is if you look at what his Silver Prism prices are cost, you can find really good players in that same price range. So he was never phenomenal with the Suns. Yeah. Like if he had played like he did now, they wouldn't have traded him. So I don't know. And I don't know what he was doing during the quarantine. Honestly, he could have just been shooting every day, and that's why he's playing so well, because other players weren't. I could see a Devin Booker or a Dame Lillard finding a gym and playing every single day and practicing like the season was still going on. And then a player like Zion maybe not doing that, or like other players like coming in a little bit slower and just like not really actually like players on the Nets that knew that Kyrie and Kevin Durant weren't coming back. Like I could see them just being like, yeah, I'm not really going to practice because I know we're not going to the playoffs. So they're actually in the playoffs. So maybe like Orlando, maybe Orlando is an example. Like them
Orlando's
being like,
in too. Like the Kings. Let's say the Kings.
The Kings, fine. The Kings, yeah. The only team other than the Pelicans that aren't in it. The Kings. Yeah. So like, but even still, like players just not really want, like if they're the 8th seed and they have to play the Bucks, if you're the Magic, you're just I don't want to, like, we're going to lose in 4 games. Who cares? So like I could, like players like Booker and Dame could have been in the gym putting up shots, and other players probably just like, whatever. I don't really care. We'll get paid, and I'll get paid whether we play well or not. So play teams that don't have a shot, probably that's kind of, I can see that being their mindset.
Especially the fact that, they have to be in a bubble and they can't be with their families. They're kind of just like no motivation for that. That's hard.
Right.
That's like,
exactly.
I can't even imagine that. Like that's a conversation for sure. But yeah, man. The NBA is on fire with card wise and just everything that's happening. Like what's you have any strategies you're still following with basketball, or let me tell you mine, because I wanted to tell you, like, the good point you said with the hype was like TJ Warren's cards at a certain price, and you can find a good player, like good, at that same price, is the things I've been telling my friends. They're like, Jason, like, I'm looking at this player, like he's going crazy and he's doing this. I'm like, yeah, but also there's some good Kevin Durant cards that you can get that Kevin Durant is already proven, and he's going to come back and do his thing. And I'm telling you, those cards are going to go up. I would put that same dollars into Kevin Durant versus any I would say any player in the league besides like LeBron James or Kawhi or somebody. So that's the things I've been telling my friends. Like the Kevin Durant PSA 9 Tops 2 card. I love that card right now. It's like $287. That's it. It's $287. It's going to go up. Kevin Durant is going to be Kevin Durant when he comes back. That's what I believe.
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, I think from a basketball standpoint, I think what's happened in this past like 6 months or so I think it's changed the market essentially. Like I think we're seeing prices hit ranges that I think if you were to ask anybody at the beginning of the year, what do you think a Luka price would be? Like maybe Luka, but like other like sort of like random players are just like popping off. And I think, for basketball, I still think looking into secondary products is probably the move, because
agree.
Prism is just getting too expensive. And the longer and longer we go, the less and less Prism is going to be open. So the more and more that's going to be out there, and we're going to have more of what the actual print run is. Like, there's probably a decent amount of people that just have like a couple cases of 2018 Prism that they're holding for however they're going to hold it until, I don't know if you saw this in the news. There was a case of 1986-87 Fleer basketball, which is the Jordan rookie that sold for case, which is like I think it was 12 boxes, and it was an unopened case, and it sold for $1.79 million. So like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that if Luka goes on to become the next LeBron, or becomes the next, like if eventually one day the conversation is Jordan or Luka, like, which I don't know. I don't know if it ever will. And I'm not making that prediction that it ever will, but I think there's probably people that have unopened cases of 2018 Prism that eventually one day could see those crazy prices because of like, when 2018 Prism was around and when people were buying it last year, people weren't expecting the prices of it to be where it is now. Like,
crazy, dude.
And 2013 Prism as well. Like 2013 Prism, if you listen to anybody who's been in the industry since 2013, 2013 Prism was a product that they gave away. Like it was a product that they weren't even like, there was no premium. You weren't paying $600 a box. You were paying maybe $120 a box. And like, they were giving it away to people. Like, left and right because they couldn't get rid of it. And it's the same thing it's the same story that happens like with the 1986 Fleer. Like back then you couldn't even give that product away. And it's similar to 2013 Prism with Giannis. So I think what's happened with Prism is it's become like a premium product almost. Like it's going into the tier where you look at it and you say, you can't find it anywhere, and if you find it, you can't afford it. So like this secondary product, so like a Donruss or an Optic, like you can still find Optic and Donruss breaks for like $40-$50. Like you can't like Prism breaks, like it's impossible. Like you're paying for one random team, you're probably paying like $100 to $120. And people can't afford that. So like for me, I think it's that secondary tier. And the one thing with these basketball prices that's really led me to shift my energy of like researching is baseball a little bit, because I think it's the pricing of it. Like, because the research that I've done is basically I'll compare Luka and Acuna, because they're both from 2018. They both have the same kind of like, they're both a similar player. They both have a similar population report for their rookie card, both the same year, kind of both the same sort of like they could be the next face of the league. And you can buy an Acuna probably now for like $300 for a PSA 10, where the Lucas are $2,000. Like, and I understand like when the thing with baseball is it's a little bit more confusing and there's like way more products. Like if someone's coming into the hobby and they're a basketball fan and a baseball fan, and you were to say, hey, what Luka card should I go get? You say, go get the 2018 Panini Prism Luka. That's going to be his best rookie card. If you were to say that for baseball, there's like 4 or 5 different options where they're all probably good choices, but like you could choose any of them and you'll see similar returns. Like you could go with like the Bowman Chrome card, or you could go with like the Topps Chrome card, or you could go with like the Topps regular rookie. And now there's also like Heritage, and there's tons of other products. And that's sort of what I've been looking into a little bit more is baseball. Also just because it's like back sort of, and it's always been my like bread and butter sort of when it comes to like where I started in baseball. I kind of learned the whole market for baseball before I got into basketball. So like I understand the cards within the market maybe the same as I do with basketball, but with baseball and basketball, it feels like there's more of a variation of cards you can get for any player basically. So that's sort of what I've been doing recently. And I haven't really been buying as much recently. Like I'll buy cards here and there, but like if I see an opportunity to buy, I will. But like I'm not like actively buying, I guess. And I think that's maybe a little bit different for people in the industry, because I also think I actually came up with this concept today. Like if you're buying sports cards and you're buying them to make money, I think you should do a couple things. You should set your budget, and then you should like make sure you're keeping track of all the money that you're putting in, and then keep track of all the money that you're getting back. But I also think that, you should have a little bit of fun with it, and you should put like a 5 to 10% of whatever your budget is into just like a Friday night, Saturday night. Maybe you've had a couple beers, or you had a couple of whiskeys or bourbons or whatever you drink, and just like, I don't know, buy something because you like it. I think that is a fun way to kind of break up like the minutia of just like looking at spreadsheets and like trying to find the best card for the best price. Like if you see something that's just like fun, just like don't go crazy. And if your budget's $500, don't spend $400 on this card, but like maybe spend like $20-$30 on a couple cards that look cool, like on a Friday or Saturday night. If you've like you went out to dinner or something and now you're just chilling watching TV, like spend a little bit of money on stuff that maybe either a PC or like maybe you don't think will have that much of a return, but like you never know, like that card could eventually be like one that you made a lot of money on, and you never know. But it's like I think it's just you can have fun that way, and it's something that I think I want to try and maybe make this concept more of a thing, because for me at least, I definitely can find myself I like researching the cards, but maybe not necessarily having as much fun buying stuff, because I'll do a lot of research and then I won't buy stuff because I like it. I would buy stuff because, or not that I don't like it, but I'll buy stuff more from the aspect of that I think it can make money and it's something that I like, and not just something that I like. I think that's kind of where I'm at sort of in the sports card realm, other than making content. Because I mean, the content stuff that's an everyday 24/7, 365 type of thing. So that's that's kind of the buying. I'm trying to mix in the two, but sometimes it's just making content is just how it goes.
Yeah, making content's fun. I mean, I enjoy it. I'm sure you enjoy it too.
Oh, yeah, totally.
There's always something to talk about. There's always an angle to go. And like I'm the same way, man. Like I'm stretched with investing. Like I can't put another dollar in. Like I'm good. And like every day I'm thinking about, like I'm looking at how things have grown and my mind just explodes. I can't believe it. I'm like, really? Like if I was to sell that right now, I'd make that much money. Is insane to me because I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
With anything
No, same. I mean, totally same.
It's like I can't believe it. And then so it's like then I like I'm like doing a new strategy. Like okay, now I probably should sit on this one a little longer, or maybe I should try to take a little bit of this Trae Young's, maybe try to get some Kevin Durant's. Like it's I'm doing stuff like that, and I'm just curiously looking at stuff because I want to know, and I just want to be able to at least tell other people like if I was getting a card, I'm telling you this is the card I would get. This is the card I would get. That's what I've been doing like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker's, like that second tier strategy you say. Man, I've been preaching that like crazy. Like guys, like these PSA 10s out here are just wild. Like they're just like
and a PSA 9, and I know people have been on this wave for a little bit. Like PSA 9s they're still really good. Like granted they're not PSA 10s, but like a PSA 9 is still like you can find or BGS 9.5. Like you can find these cards for significantly less, and they're still like, it's still like, think about this. Like if you're taking a test in school and you get a 90 or 100, you still got an A. Like even though it might be an A-, you still got an A. So I think the PSA 9 is a movement that I have seen across kind of social media, and I think it's also like you said. I think it's a lot of people doing stuff that's similar to what I'm talking about, where they're just trying to, they don't want to spend the money on the PSA 10. They'd rather spend less money on a PSA 9 if they think maybe the PSA 9 is undervalued, and maybe if the pricing of the PSA 10 compared to the 9 maybe should be a little bit closer.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I told my friend when we were sitting in SoCal. I visited a friend, and he's one of the guys I talked to earlier. I was like, dude, get a card. Like, I'm telling you, man, start getting in. He did it, but I'm like, it's okay. Like, look at it this way now. There's PSA 9s. There's a PSA 8. Like, if you look at, and I just tell him, like, if you look at the history of a one card and what that PSA 9 did following the PSA 10, this is going to happen over here. Like, I'm telling you, like, get this PSA 9, sit on it all next year, or get this PSA 8, put your $80 in. It's not going to grow crazy like a 10, but it's going to profit. You're not going to lose money. You're going to make money either way.
Totally.
Like, you're going to do fine. So, man, I'm telling people to sell their shoes. Like, if you don't have money, and I get that, you don't have money, but you want to get a card. I know people that have $200 shoes that are just sitting there, and I get it. You like your fashion. I'm like, you're going to make 4X, 3X of what those shoes are worth.
Totally.
And you can go back and buy the shoes again if you really like them.
Exactly.
Man,
like, granted, there are shoes like if you have like a Red October Yeezys, like those ones have probably gone up in value, but at the same time, it's like, and that may be an extreme example, like because those are super rare. But like if you have like a pair of like random Jordan whatever's like a 4s or 2s or 1s, and they're just like you never wear them, like you just said. I think those aren't going up in price as much as like cards. So like you could and so the other crazy thing is like the market has grown so quickly that I don't think I was not prepared for this. I sold cards in March and I sold cards in May, and
it's different, right?
It's
made it
so
now.
out, like crazy. It's so crazy. Like now, when the pandemic kind of hit, I was sort of thinking in my head, like, I want to at least be prepared if stuff really goes down. So I sold one of my Kobe PSA 10s that I had, one of the Kobe, for $600.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like a $5,000 to $6,000 card now. So like that one hurts. That one definitely hurts. But at the same time, I was nervous back then, and it helped me be not nervous. So I think I don't know. Right? I'm really, it's hard for me to justify. I'm in my head. I can't think I can't keep thinking about it, but I do. And like, it's unfortunate, but I guess it helped me back then give me a little peace of mind to know that I wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be over leveraged, I guess. That was kind of one of the things that I was a little bit nervous about. I had a lot of my like money tied up in sports cards, and I still had a job. And like, so I was thinking like at that time in March, like, and it's like the job, it's still there. Like, obviously, like, so the income from the job is still there. So I don't have to really worry about that. But like back then in March, it was like, it was like 20% unemployment. So I'm like, okay, there's 2 people that live in this apartment. If it's 20%, that knocks that down to it's a 20% chance for either of us. It's a 50% chance of either of us based off the numbers. Now, granted, that's obviously didn't play out, but in my head, that's how I justified it essentially, was like, I would rather be set now because, and like I said, I don't think anyone expected this to be what the market was going to be. Like, no one expected that we were going to have a global virus that was going to shut down the Hall of Fame ceremony. So like, that was one, like, so another example would be like Mbappe, a soccer player. I was buying his rookie cards last summer raw for $3 a piece and PSA 10s for $40 a piece. That card just hit 2K, and it's hard. And I believe in Mbappe more than I believe in any, like, also granted, like at this point, I mean, I've a million X'd my investment on him. So like, it's not even, it's hard to even look at it and say, if I sell it now, what? Like, then I don't have the card. But at the same time, it's like, I only put $40 into one of the PSA 10s and now it's worth $2,000. Like, it just doesn't, it blows my mind. It's insane.
That's crazy, man. I'm wondering, because I was listening, I have to ask you, because I was listening to this podcast Gary Vee did. It might be with that Bleacher Report guy. It might be. He did a podcast with him about sports cards, and then he said, yeah, I was talking to this guy or a friend. He said he sold a card too early. He's like, you can't be sad. You can't be sad. I wonder if that's you.
I don't think it was, but I have been very vocal about like when I've been selling, like on the podcast. Like, there's been like, I think 2 or 3 periods since March when I have been selling, and on the podcast I'll talk about it. Like, also another card that I sold that has doubled since I sold it. I sold the silver Mbappe PSA 10 that I bought for $100, and I sold it for $2,500. So at the time I was like, $2,500, like that's the craziest thing ever. But now it's like, now that was another one that's like a $4,000 to $5,000 card. And you know, at the time I justified it and I said, well, this is you need to, the thing with these higher end cards, and I think now it's honestly gotten a little bit crazier. So these higher end cards, there's more people who are buying the higher end cards because of and I think it's the market itself has kind of grown. Hold on. I'm trying to think of the exact example here. The market for higher end cards is there because people bought in way cheaper, and now they're selling cards for more and they're buying cards for more. So like the Luka for 2K, there's people who are buying Luka for 2K who bought it at, you know, granted they could have even bought it for $1,000 and they sold it for $1,500 and now they're buying it back at 2K. Like, there's people that are probably doing that, but there's also just people who bought Luka for $50, $60 and they sold it at $1,500 and now they're going out and buying a Devin Booker or they're buying whoever. But it's because the market has grown is why I think the higher end cards, and I think 2000 is becoming a higher end, but at the same time, it's like the market that's kind of the floor sort of. So like that Mbappe card at the time, I was saying to myself, well, I need someone to pay me $2,500 for this card. How many people are buying cards for $2,500? Obviously, with Luka getting up to 2,000, there's way more, and now the floor is kind of continuing to rise. I guess that's one way to put it.
Yeah, man. And like you said, none of us see the future. There's no way we would have known Luka's. Like, I didn't expect Luka to hit 2,000 before playoffs or even this year. Like, that's like, I put a post up today on my Instagram stories of a screenshot of I put in January. I was like, guys, Luka's at 225. They're gonna go up to 500. Like, that was my projection. They're gonna reach $500, guys. You better get them now so you can buy 4 of them and then make an $800 profit if you resell it. Dude, there's no way I was gonna type Luka is gonna be $2,000 by August. That's just crazy, dude. I did not see that
Yeah.
at all. Same thing with Trae Young.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
I
with
was
Trae
looking.
Young, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
is. I was looking back at some of my old posts, and I found a post where I was talking about Luka's for $80 and
yeah.
PSA 9s for $20. And
It's been so real.
that was
It's
like September of last year. It's like
sounds like a fairy tale now.
yeah. And I
Crazy.
reposted the post on my Instagram story, and I just said imagine, because it's like it doesn't even seem it's not even like a realistic thing that you can it's how are you going to tell somebody in September of 2018 this card is going to be worth $2,000 come August of next year? Like
there's no way.
No way. Like I just couldn't, and so there's no way to predict it. I don't even think we're really done. I think the market is going to continue to do, maybe not grow at the rate that it has, or maybe it will. Like, who knows at this point?
Who knows,
like,
right?
Who knows?
Yeah. I was laughing because I was looking at a Trae Young post. I said in 3 years, Trae Young cards will be like $300. I said in 3 years.
It's a good call.
Yeah. I was comfortable. I was like, cool. I'm gonna sit on this for 3 years. I'm gonna have some $300 cards. It's cards
totally.
$100, man. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
What the heck? And just from like what I just listen to people that was part of that first wave, that 87, 93 year, and what they're seeing now, they're just like I've never seen anything like this. I can't see it slowing down. And like I think they're sustainable players that are just – what makes me happy about Trae Young is that he's not in the playoffs, but his cards are still growing. That makes me so happy because they're probably looking at Trae. They're like, man, there's another player. They're like – because Devin – or they're looking at Devin. And they're like, look at Devin. Like, there's some other player like that somewhere. I think they see that same thing with Trae. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think there was also some rumors about a second bubble that was going to happen with like the Warriors and like Atlanta and the teams that didn't make the original one. I think they were just like, nah, we're good. We don't really want to do that.
Yeah, the players are like, for what, right? Like,
right, exactly.
I'd rather be with my family, man. So
yeah, totally. Or like, Steph Curry's like, go to Chicago? No, I'm good. I'll stay in Oakland. I'm good in Golden State. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, you still get paid the same check. It's cool.
Right.
So, yeah, man. But, yeah, things have been crazy. I know baseball's back in the swing of things. Aaron Judge was a guy. You made a post about Aaron Judge. That's another card. I was like, if I had $1,000, I'd buy so many Aaron Judges, and his cards are going up. I'm sure there's other players. I don't follow baseball too close, but, like, just from this first 10 months, man, of investing has taught me a lot about being aggressive, watching trends, really doing research, and you kind of just get an eye for things. I know your eye is really good. Like your eye is just like, yep, that card, yep, this is gonna happen. Like that's what I feel like's happening with me in a lot of cases. So
totally, yeah. Because I was looking back at old posts to see if I had talked about this card because it's sort of blowing up a little bit. Last summer I was looking into tennis cards, which this sounds insane. At the time, it was
too. You were good about golf.
Too. At the time, I remember I was at work and my coworkers knew that I was into cards, and I was looking up Serena Williams cards. And at the time, they were like, I was like, oh no, they were like, what are you looking at? I was like, oh, I'm looking at tennis cards. And they're like, tennis cards? Like, what are you even like? There's tennis cards, and I'm just like, I don't know. I think cards have some good possibilities. So I bought like. And then in February is when I actually pulled the trigger on a few of them. I bought a couple for like I think it was like $1 or a little bit less than $1. And now they're sitting at like $3.50 for like the raw card. So like, that's where I was looking. I was looking to see if I had predicted that card. I know I talked about it on the podcast, but I want to be able to make sure that if people start talking about tennis cards, I want them to know that I was on tennis cards in September of last year.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was on Serena Williams cards in last summer.
That's wild, dude. I was looking to see if there was WNBA cards, but I couldn't find.
There are WNBA cards. That's an interesting topic that you brought up. There's a Prism set that's coming out. The first ever Prism set's coming out in a couple weeks. And Sabrina Ioska, I think how you pronounce her last name. You know, she was like training with Kobe. She has the best stats of any WNBA college athlete, like in college. And, I think that's a player that's a WNBA player that I'm probably going to be picking up now. I don't know what the boxes are going to be costing. That may be an issue. I don't know what the cards are going to be cost or what they're going to cost. But there are some like Optic and Donruss cards from last year. Now, a WNBA player I did pick up was actually Becky Hammon, who is a coach for
Spurs,
she's a assistant coach for the Spurs. And she is basically lining herself up to become the first female coach of a major 4 professional sports team in the history of sports. So like for me, I would like, she has cards from like 2003, I think. So I bought a couple of them like last winter or like over this last winter. So like that's another player that I think, or WNBA player that I was interested in that I bought some cards of. But I think WNBA cards, yes, that's me. And then actually one of my other buddies, Jake, I got him into sports cards, and I think I created a monster because he texts me all the time. He's like, I've been looking at this. Like, what do you think of this? And then WNBA, he's like, I want to buy a bunch of WNBA boxes. And I'm like, I'm so on the same page with you because, like, when they said Prism set was coming out, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a monster set. And I think Sabrina's cards are going to be, like, she's going to be like the Luka of the WNBA.
Right.
So, like, yeah, that's it. So when you said WNBA, I was like, yep, 100% on that train.
Man, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, because I just remember when I was doing when I was listening to podcasts early last year, I was like, they were talking about U.S. soccer, women's soccer cards, and like nobody was on them until they won that World Cup, and then they had a good spurt in the prices and the cards, and I was like I need to look at some WNBA because they got this girl Sabrina who's a baller. She hurt her ankle, so she's out for the season.
Yeah, so that was unfortunate, but also like the Liberty are like terrible. So they're gonna need. I don't follow the WNBA that much. I do bet on the WNBA because it's sort of easy. Like the favorites win a lot of the time. So like I follow it from a betting standpoint, and I follow it because of Sabrina. But and I just know the Liberty haven't won a game since the restart. So they're not very good, but I don't know, like maybe they get another player that's good. And then now it's like a Penny and Shaq situation with Sabrina and some other player or something like that.
Exactly. And she wins a title, got a really good card.
Definitely.
Man, that's crazy. That's crazy. But Adam, I gotta get ready for a training, man. It's always fun talking with you. I learned so much from you, man. And
for sure.
I always appreciate your time, and I know you can talk cards, sports, all this for days. So, yeah, man, we'll do this again. Like, I don't know what we'll be talking about, the next time we connect, 2 months, 3 months on a podcast. Like, it's going to be crazy, whatever it is. So, thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Adam, I'll catch you later, man.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, bye.